What's up guys, Sean from Bentwater Anglers, and today I want to show you how I tie one of my favorite caddis patterns. I call this the loop caddis, just a really buggy, imitative caddis pattern that anytime there's caddis on the water, I will definitely throw this guy out there. So let's go ahead and jump into it. For this one, I'm going to be using a size 10. This is a fully mill, ultimate dry, and with all this stuff, just put a link into the description for you guys. So got an olive green UTC 70 denier thread, and I'm just gonna go ahead, we'll get a good base going here, come back just past the point, and I'll clip that out of there. So for the first part and the body of this fly, I'm going to be using this Super Bright. This stuff is awesome, great dubbing. Can be a little bit tricky to get a really tight dubbing cord though, so I'm going to show you a little trick, and this is actually the first of our loops. So all in all, this fly is 3 loops, and I know dubbing loops can be a bit of a pain and maybe a little bit intimidating, but reality is if you just practice them and mess around with them, they're like bar chords on a guitar. They make your life so much easier once you get the hang of it. So I've gone ahead and I've just dubbed that on loosely, and you can see it's not terrible, but it's pretty loose. So rather than kind of mess around with it the whole time and twist as I go forward, I'm going to show you a little hack. So take my spinner. Now I didn't close this off like a traditional dubbing loop, and that's because the material's already in there, so I'm not as worried. But got that in, got my spinner on, and now I'm just going to go ahead and give it a spin. This is too much material, but I just want to show you what will happen. So we went from a pretty bulky kind of unruly body to this, and with any caddis pattern I really like to have a thin body. If you look at caddis, if you take one and just examine it, they have a pretty thin body, so keep this guy pretty thin as well. I'm just going to use my clip over here. Just want to get that out of the way for a second so I can come up. So with this, I'm going to work my thread back to about halfway down the hook, because this is a fly that's very easy to crowd. So I like to try to go less is more, if you will. So work that down, do a little quick half hitch, and then we'll take advantage of our rotary, and we'll just build a body here. So just wrapping in front of each turn in front until about there, give or take. Again, just keep an eye, and this is kind of true with a lot of flies, but I think less is more in the sense of just don't crowd the hook. That just ends up becoming a real pain in the butt. It can be really hard to finish the fly and all sorts of things, and then eventually getting your tippet through can be kind of hard too. So get that on. I'm just going to clip this out of our way. Now I'll leave these stragglers, not too worried about it. This is a buggy pattern, so the buggier the better for me. So for the next step, set my scissors down. Got a chunk of hair here, and I apologize. I think this is an old clump of elk hair. I'm really bad with throwing out packages, but I think any hair will work. The reason I like this one is that the tips are all pretty much uniform, and it's a smaller fiber as well. So I do like that. You can use any chunk here, but again, I think the key with this, what we're going to do next here, is to just kind of have some deer hair or elk hair that where the tips line up for the most part. So what I'm going to do is I've got this little chip clip. Found this on Amazon, so if you look up chip clip, you can find this. These rubber edges really make it nice for this sort of stuff. So we're going to take this chunk of hair and then put a little bit of a bend in it, like so. Just work my clip in, and just so you guys can see that. So essentially what I've done is I've figured out the tip length already before I close down on it. We've got the tip length. I'm going to let that close down, get some longer scissors here, and clip these off as close to the base as I can, because as you progress with this clump of hair, it's going to make doing this sort of technique much easier. If you just clip it off at the tips, it gets a little unruly. So this is what it looks like at this point. I'm going to go ahead and over my trash can, I'm just going to clip this down. So what I end up with is about this. So about 1/8 of an inch overhang. which will help me clip it into the loop. So we'll go ahead. Whenever I'm making a loop, I have a pretty simple formula. Thread down, and I usually give myself a little bit of extra room, which can be a help or a hindrance depending on what we're doing here. You'll come up with your own formula, but thread down, put a finger in here. I just put my middle finger usually. Wrap up over your middle finger. Couple quick wraps on the hook to lock that off, and then just throw the bobbin up and over twice. Okay, and again, I'm going to use my little clip here. This is another reason why I do a little bit longer when I like to be able to stick in that clip while I'm doing other things. So again, just get our bobbin out of the way. Okay, so just check it. Sometimes these will want to spin. Just make sure it's not spun on you. I will go ahead, put my spinning tool in for this one, and then I've just got some low tack wax from J. Stockard. Great product. I mean, you can use any sort of chapstick or wax that you have. I'm just going to hit the thread with that. I find that with deer hair, that having that little bit of wax on there really helps kind of just keep it in place. Sometimes it'll want to jump right out of the thread, especially if it's larger stuff. So a little bit of wax goes a long way. I'm going to take this, slide this into the loop, and try to get it up as close as I can. Like so. Go ahead, we'll pull back on that. Now just be careful, and then you can manipulate this stuff a little bit. I don't like to get too crazy with it. More often than not, the manipulating makes it go crazy, so we'll just give it a good spin. And with a little patience, you'll see it ends up giving us quite a nice, almost like a deer hair, or sorry, elk hair in this case, almost like an elk hair hackle. So really cool. And this, I think, just makes a really, really buggy fly. So I'm going to go ahead and just sort of manipulate this stuff. It can be kind of unruly, but as I wrap, just try to pull these fibers back. Again, not the end of the world. This is a buggy fly, and if you ever look at caddis on the water, you know that they just look like spazzes. So I think the more we can do to give this thing some perceived motion, the better. So I don't get too carried away. Alright, so we'll get that last wrap in there. Go ahead, capture this. Now with these, I like to capture it, one in back, one in front, twice, just to make sure we've got it in there. There's nothing worse than losing all that progress. So just really make sure you've got it. Come in here. Alright, clip that out of there. And then I'm just going to grab all these fibers and just kind of pull back on the ones I can and clean this up a little bit. Like so. Great. And if you've got one that you think is going to get in your way, get rid of it by all means. So, looking good there. Alright, now the next step is optional. I'm going to show you it. I fish these both ways. I fish them where I leave all the hair on and do the next step and don't worry about it. And then I do fish them where I'll come in here and just show you. So taking my thumb and forefinger to kind of protect some of these hairs, I'll just come in and just give a clip to some of the hairs on the belly of that. So what that does essentially is it's going to help it just fish a little flatter. If you were to dead drift this, or you know, wanted to just have a fly that sits a little bit flatter on the water, that helps. But for example, if I'm using this on a system with some wet flies, I'll leave those belly hairs on, and it'll just add to the skating and to the movement of it. So totally up to you. I recommend tying them both ways and seeing what you think. So we'll go ahead, and I'm just gonna do one more loop again. Good practice. Dubbing loops are very, very helpful, really. And while they can be intimidating, I think if you just practice them, you'll find they're really not so bad. So put my loop in the clip to get it out of our way, and I'll just throw half inch in there. And again, get this bobbin out of our way. So this is my favorite part of the fly, and something I think is really, really cool. I learned this from the guys over at Fly Fish Food. If you haven't checked their stuff out, you absolutely have to. Just wealth of information, tons of really great flies. So essentially what I have here is a magic eraser, and I've gone ahead and I've just drawn some lines and cut it with a razor. And this is a super cheap version of a like Petitjean magic clip. I used to watch the videos of that and just be like in total awe. And then when I looked at how much they cost, I was like, oh no. So this is like a dollar version of that. So anyway, cut a bunch of lines. That way you can correspond with other feathers. What I really like about this way of doing it is I've got myself a CDC feather here. So just a natural CDC, as you can see here. And what I've done is I've just grabbed it by the tip, and I've just kind of pulled these fibers so that they stack 90 degrees to the stem. But this is kind of a small chunk of CDC, maybe would get overlooked. But with this system and this style of doing it, I can use it and make the most of it. So I'm going to take it, I'm going to go ahead, find the corresponding cut, just insert it like so, and then I'll come in and I'll clip any of this excess out of there. And what that does is it allows me to take my clip now, just go ahead, open the clip wide, capture that. The easiest way I found to get this stuff out of there is to just put a little bit of a bend, like so, and then you can get that out. Take some longer scissors here, and there you go. Now you've got a really nice clump of CDC. You can pinch it together, use it as a post, do what we're about to do, which is just throw it into a dubbing loop, get a nice little brush of CDC. But that magic eraser hack is just awesome. So go ahead and we're going to slide this in. Now again, you can use some dubbing wax here. I don't usually use the wax with CDC because it's pretty cooperative for the most part. We'll get that in, we'll clip it out. Give it a spin, and just like with the deer hair, you can adjust things if you want, but I don't really see the need to. So I can see some of the fibers are trapped, and it's not a big deal. Just take a brush, just sort of brush some of these out, free them up. And then same idea applies here. We're just going to sort of preen these fibers back as we wrap. Forward. Try to do touching wraps, or just make an effort to push this material back on itself, and it'll kind of keep itself in order if you do that. So let's just finish this off, see if we can't use this whole chunk, which I think we can. Great. So I'll get that out of the way, and again, just take your time here, especially at this point. And what I like to do is rest the weight of my spinner off of my middle finger, and then I can use my thumb and index finger to pull everything back, get a few wraps, come up and under again, really lock that in. So, okay, be really, really careful at this point. Just like to pull the loop up at an angle so that way I don't clip my tying thread off. Not that I've ever done that. And so now let's see, there's the little guy right there we'll get rid of. You don't have to worry too much about this. This thing's going to be moving or giving such a buggy appearance, it's not going to be a big deal, but for the sake of the video, I'll clip that out of there. So anyway, 2 3-turn whip finishes here, and then you are pretty much there. I will throw a chunk of drop of head cement on there as well, but I'll spare you guys having to watch that. So one more of these guys. And again, you know, tying this with a bunch of different colors, I like to throw an orange in there. It gives it a really nice sort of hot head appearance. But today we went with green, a little more traditional. So there you have it. Now, at this point, you can come in and tweak the CDC if you want. I leave it long. I'm not worried about it. I think the CDC is great. It gives it the appearance of legs or antenna, depending, you know, all sorts of things. But really, a great pattern. You can just use it as a standalone dry fly, and it works really well. But I also really like to throw this in as like a tag on a Euro system so that, you know, I have my point fly down and this guy bouncing around on the surface. Gives it a really, really caddis-like appearance. So tie some of these up, guys. Let me know how they work for you, and I hope to see you on the water soon. Thanks for watching.